Devil May Cry, one of the greatest action video games of all time, and my all-time favorite video game series. Given how influential they have been on the video game landscape over the years, it's actually surprising that there aren't many fan games out there that truly capture what made DMC so special. That first stuck with me, and 2 years ago, given how long it takes for Capcom to drop a new DMC game, I knew we would get any decent DMC content anytime soon. So I decided to make my own, using Unreal Engine 5. And after over a year of development, countless changes, and a lot of trial and error, I brought it to its current state. And today, I'm going to show you the process behind it. My name is Presley, and this is Devil May Cry 0. When I started this project, I was actually hesitating between making a teenage version of Dante and Virgil or making them much older. But then I remembered there's the manga called Vision of V, with fresh and unexploded material, with a much younger version of Dante and Virgil that tells the story of how they ended up the way they are in the series. And I thought of making an adaptation of it, which will be great since the games have always been rather vague about that part of the story. So instead of using the teenage version, the game will be set in their childhood. And also because at the time I thought it will make things easier for me in the technical side. And boy, was I naive for this. So I started by modeling Dante and Virgil in Blender. I went for a Final Fantasy-like aesthetic. I then exported to Unreal and set up a basic character movement. I then made some animation for the movement and exported it to Unreal. I then gave him a sword and used the game as reference to remake some of the animation like sword combo, high time, or Helmbreaker. For Helmbreaker, I implemented a logic that separates the animation into three parts. The first one is start, the second that will play in loop as long as he is falling, and the third one that plays when he reaches the ground. I then went on to make the lock-on system, which is one of the most important parts in the combat system of DMC. I can't even imagine what a DMC game would feel like without a lock-on system. That would be terrible. So it detects any opponent within a certain range, and the player's rotation is set to make him stay out of target as long as he is in lock-on mode. And the camera anchor is set in a location between the player and the target. I then made the first enemy, Hell Kinda, according to the manga, and made some basic animation from when he attacks or gets hit. And just like that, I have a basic prototype for a DMC game. So it's time to make it nicer and actually functional. I started by gathering a bunch of references to model the house from the manga. And this was supposed to be the first mission level. Around this time I was almost 6 months in and I realized I've got a lot better at modeling. So I decided to remake Dante and Virgil's character model. And by the way, can we talk about how bad Netflix show is? No? Okay. And that's how the final result looks like. An improvement over the previous version. And I was planning to use the animations of the previous model for this one. I'm sure this will go well, right?
Wrong. What the hell is this?
Anyways, after deleting the abomination I created, I used footage of the game as reference to recreate all the animations. And I realized I've got a lot better at animating as well. Outside of the visual aspect, I managed to fix some small issues here and there, starting with the collision between two characters, which was kind of rough, and you couldn't push another character by walking up to him. I came up with this solution where they don't actually collide but rather overlap, and apply a force to each other depending on the speed and the distance. Great. Next up was fixing the hit detection system. Because it would search for a hit each frame on the sword location, it had a lot of room for errors, and an enemy could easily sneak between two positions. I fixed it by adding interpolation between two successive positions, and it works well. Next, to add more impact to the attacks, I wanted to add the scratches that appear on an enemy when he gets hit, just like in DMC5. So I made this shader that draws scratches using a virtual cube, but the problem is it wasn't permanent and would be deformed if the enemy moves. In order to fix it, I needed to capture the result as a texture. So I made this shader that projects the mesh following the UVs, and I added a camera component to capture the result as a texture while it's still in state, and apply it to the model. And this all happens in a single frame, and works on any type of mesh. Now let's talk ability system. For a start, I separated the abilities in two categories. The first one being any ability that would make the player move and interrupt whatever he's doing at the moment. You have attacks like sword combo, punching, or even dodging. And the second category is you have attacks that don't make the character move and can be stacked and activated regardless of whatever the player is doing. You have stuff like Devil Trigger, Summoned Sword, or even style switching. And yes, style switching also counts as an ability. And anytime you swap weapon, it updates the list containing any ability you have at your disposal if it meets the required conditions. So with the system set and done, I recreated all the abilities that will make sense for them to possess at this point in their life. But I wanted to focus more on the complex ones. Starting with the Royal Guard. Royal Guard is basically Dante going defense mode. In it we have simple block that reduces the damage received, and you have Royal Block that completely cancels any damage received. That is, if you hit block with the right timing right before you get hit. And when you master it, you can block absolutely anything. And implementing it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. So when you activate it, it triggers this animation, and if you get hit within this small time range, it completely cancels the attack. Speaking of timing, there's also this ability called Royal Release, which is probably one of the most powerful in the game. And if you trigger it right before you get hit, you counter attack with a devastating blow. Same principle, if you activate it with the right timing, you counter attack. It's one of my favorite abilities in the game because it's really satisfying when you manage to pull it off, and a good risk and reward ratio. Next up is Gunslinger. Gunslinger is basically Dante doing gun kung fu. And it will make sense for Kid Dante to have a gun, so I gave him firework instead. Because playing with firework is the type of shit that Kid Dante would totally do. And for Virgil as an option for your range weapon, I gave him a pair of yo-yos. And shout out to this guy on Twitter for giving me the idea. It is not completely fleshed out for now, but I have a lot of cool ideas for this weapon, and I believe it fits more his character than the fireworks. Also, I added Inertia, which is a mechanic in the MC4 that allows the player to keep his momentum when performing certain attacks in the air. And abilities can have different effects on the momentum. You can either reduce it, create it, or even cancel it. It's very simple, but can be exploited to add another layer to the combos. Very basic, but you can do very stylish stuff with it if you know what you're doing. Another mechanic that I really wanted to have is the counter system. Seeing Dante and Virgil strike at the same time and cancel each other out, it's something that I really like to see. And it was actually pretty easy to implement. So I made a logic that happens when two hitboxes collide and they get cancelled if they have the same power level. With all the aspect of the combat system done, it was time to set up the AI. I was playing the MC4 and I wondered how Dante is capable of telling an attack is coming and react accordingly when you're facing against him. So I came up with this: each time you strike, it draws this capsule and alert any opponent, and they can react accordingly depending on the situation. And in Dante's case, when he detects an attack, he can dodge and either react with Stinger or throw fireworks. So it's time to make him move and perform combos. I actually set up the controller to make it seem as if it was controlled by another player, meaning the controller is in a way actually pressing buttons in order to perform any abilities. This way doesn't give an unfair advantage to the boss. And after some testing, I realized Dante's AI is way too strong. I couldn't even land a single attack. So I decided to make him fight against himself to give him the taste of his own medicine. And I've got too carried away.
Is to go even further beyond.
Anyways, that's all I've got for today. I still have more stuff to cover, but I don't really want this video to be over an hour long, so I will make a second part to this video. Or maybe this is the first part of a long series. I don't know, maybe. People have been asking how long this project took to create and what I planned for it. It took me about a year and a half to get to the current state. Even though I started late 2022, I wasn't constantly working on it due to ILS stuff. And also the game is going to be free, so if you wish to support me you can do so on my Patreon. And my Patreon members can have access to a beta version of whatever game I'm making at the moment. I am going to release the game very soon, at least the first version of the game. It will only contain the Bloody Palace and a training mode. Right now I'm adding more enemies to the game. The story mode is not complete yet, I'm going to have one, and it will follow the events of the Vision of V manga. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and adios.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?